All right, Franklin. We're we're live. What a treat. I love that. I love that. I haven't seen you in so long.
I know
Uh,
it's been so long. Thank you for having me.
dude, of course. Um, so yeah, I'm trying to remember the last time I saw you. It's probably 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
Yeah,
When were you at LA Fitness?
probably. I think what, like 2018, I think.
Wow. So four
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah, a while ago.
Oh my God. Um, so for everybody who doesn't know, I'm talking to Coach Franklin Miller, Frank the Tank. Uh, um, why don't you give us a little intro for you, and then we're just gonna shoot the shit and pick your smart brain.
Okay, yeah. So I own the Baseball Health and Performance Institute, baseball strength tank on social media. Just opened last July.
Let's go.
Um, but actually before that, like way before that was when we met,
Hmm.
when we were both at LA Fitness, back in the day. But
Yeah.
that was actually where kind of for me everything first started.
Yeah, that was your first like one-on-one training type of gig, right?
Yeah, actually before that I was working at the Panera across the street.
No way. I didn't
Yeah,
know that.
yeah, yeah. I was making sandwiches over there, and then eventually, once I was able to get the certification, everything, that was when I applied over at LA Fitness.
Hmm. Dude, you were I think the first thing I remember about you, I was just like, this guy's way overqualified to be at LA Fitness. I was like, because you were doing like, because you come from an athletic performance background, right? So why don't you talk about your background a little bit?
Yeah, so while we were there at LA Fitness, I was finishing up my master's at Sacred Heart University, in exercise science and nutrition. Before that, I went to school for biology. And then throughout college and everything, I'd always played baseball. Played 1 year, my last year of eligibility at Sacred Heart. Before that was at Dominican College, and then actually started off at junior college
Oh
playing
wow.
baseball.
Look at you. And then so you were a pitcher, right?
Yep,
And so did you start off what do they call junior college? JUCO? Is that what they call them?
yep, JUCO.
So you start off at JUCO. Is that because talent wise you weren't like up to par with like a D1 college yet?
Yeah, I actually got cut from a D1 college my freshman year of college.
Wow,
Yeah,
no way.
it was definitely a roller coaster during college. But my freshman year, I went down to a D1. I tried to walk on, got cut. But talent wise, I wasn't throwing hard. I definitely didn't have the tools that were needed at that level at that time.
Hmm.
Then transferred back to a community college back home. Played a year there, and that was actually what kind of first got me into training. Because while I was back at the community college, we had to do the insanity videos. So we did. It was actually in our locker room, 60 days straight, the entire team. Um,
Wow.
yeah, all of us going through it. And then from that, all of a sudden, my velocity jumped like 4 or 5 miles an hour that off season.
What?
So I was like, wow, there's kind of something to this.
Yeah.
And from there, went to Dominican College, which was a Division II school. Actually, kind of got into the weight room. I started going seeing a trainer while I was there. And then all of a sudden, that next off season, it was like another 3 or 4 mile an hour jump. Um,
Wow.
so I was always a hard worker on the field, always throwing, long tossing in high school, everything, but I never really seen the inside of a weight room. Um, so once that really hit for me, and I started really seeing the gains in the weight room, my performance just started going up, and then ended up getting a finish off playing at Sacred Heart. But that was what made me kind of shift gears in school too, because originally I was going for biology, but then kind of fell in love with the weight room through baseball. So ended up switching to the exercise science.
Wow. So what was like your starting velocity and then what was like your peak velocity?
So in high school, I was like 75 to 77, I would say 78 on a good day.
Yeah.
That's where I was when I got cut from the team freshman year of high school, which anybody would tell you that's not going to play in college.
Right. Yeah.
But by the end of my college career, I was for the most part like 85 to 87, 88, touched 89 a couple times.
Wow.
Never had that golden 90 that I know of,
You're
but
right. That's a huge jump though. That's like almost 10 miles per like 10 miles per
yeah,
hour over
and
over
I
your
would
springboard.
attribute essentially all of that to the weight room, to the training.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting like how like some schools just have really good strength training programs for athletic programs, and then some are just like, let's do insanity for 60 days and like this is
Right.
your strength training.
Yeah, and it was great. Like coming from where I was coming from, I hadn't done anything, so I
Right.
saw huge benefits from it. Um, and I think like our coaches were great. It was like a small community college. We didn't really have any sort of like, our weight room was like a closet.
Wow.
So we didn't really have a whole lot. So they did what they could. They threw the DVD in the TV, and it worked for a lot of us.
Wow. That's crazy. I mean, good for them for finding something to do. That's amazing. So basically you got started working in the gym, and the reason that stuck with you is because you actually saw a direct result with your athletic performance on the field, right? So then you get your master's, right? You start training at LA Fitness. So then I was always curious, what's going through your mind while you're training at LA Fitness?
I mean, I really liked it. For me, like I had always, like in high school, college, everything, I was working in a kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, it was like it was a dream come true. It was like my first step in the door. Um, I don't think I worked with a single really. I think I maybe had one kid who was playing sports as a client there, but for the
Mm-hmm.
most part, it was Gen Pop. Most people are trying to lose weight, just
Mm-hmm.
kind of get healthier. But I absolutely loved it there.
Yeah.
Um, because it was kind of that first step into really getting there.
Mm-hmm. So then you're at LA Fitness, and then when do you get to the point where you're like, all right, what's my next step?
So after graduating from Sacred Heart, I I was at LA Fitness. I had left LA Fitness kind of after graduating. I went down to Virginia Beach, and I was a pitching coach in the Virginia Beach Collegiate Baseball League. And so I knew that I needed to get some experience with athletes. So I actually just started volunteering.
Wow.
What I was doing, there were 10 teams in the league down there, and I just bought a whiteboard and like a bag full of equipment that I could carry, and I would take it to the weight room where
I
all the
remember
kids
that.
would go. And I would just set up my whiteboard, and it started with like one or two kids, and I was doing it all for free for the kids. And by the end of the summer, I had a good group of like 6 to 8 kids that were working with me, just to kind of get the feet wet with the baseball players, with the athletes. And then after that summer, I got a position working in a facility, a local facility around here. Spent
Mm-hmm.
about 3 years there. From there, last summer in July was when I kind of branched off and opened up the Baseball Health Performance Institute.
Let's go. I love that because I remember when you went to Virginia Beach, and I remember seeing you on the field like taking athletes through like, I was like, oh, there's Frank's like classic mobility drills. He's like whipping up
Oh
and stuff
yeah.
like that. That's actually, I gotta give a huge kudos to you because like you like totally like changed my mindset on like dynamic warm-ups and implementing that before like prior to your workouts. Like
Oh,
probably before you, I was just doing like maybe your standard warm-ups, like treadmill or foam rolling, blah blah. But then I saw you doing more like dynamic mobility. I was like, I need to do this, and I need to get my clients to do this. And I was like, this is like a must because my style of training had been for a while like more bodybuilding type style. But then once I started working out with you a little bit and watching you, then I kind of got like more athletic performance mixed in with that too. So major credit to you, my friend. Um,
I could go vice versa, same exact thing. Like, because coming from a baseball background, everybody's scared of like pressing, right? And
mhm.
especially like pressing overhead. And then at LA Fitness, we start working out together, and we
Yep.
start doing barbell presses, stuff like that. We're pressing
Yep.
everything and going overhead, and I'm like, damn, my arm still feels great.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
no
You
issue with it.
you got jacked.
Yeah.
I remember that. The so I guess my question to you for one is, do you have any because obviously you're very skilled in athletic training and you specify in baseball, But do you have any like influences from, people in the industry that you're like, yeah, like I learned a lot just from watching this guy or reading his content or anything like that?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a ton. I'm always on like online social media, Instagram, everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say like one of the biggest is actually also right in Connecticut, like Dr. Heenan and ATP, Advanced Therapy Performance, their facility over there. While I was at school at Sacred Heart too, I did a shadowing over there with their coach Brian D'Onofrio, and I think that was maybe just as valuable, if not even more, as some of the stuff I learned in school, with especially applying it to the athletes and kind of getting to the movement side of things rather than just like throwing the weight around on like a squat bench press, where like really taking a deeper look at how the athlete's moving and seeing what the athlete really needs individually.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and I love that most of your like experiences have like really shaped like how you train people now, like whether you like did it for free, whether it was like shadowing, anything like that. I think one person that comes to mind when I think of baseball athletic training is like Eric Cressy.
Yeah,
um
he's an incredible. I've followed all this stuff for years, and he's he's really a great inspiration too, and like a almost like a role model of like a goal where to want to get
yeah,
to.
yeah. I think I always think it's cool because he's always trying to like adapting his training and like questioning everything, right?
Right.
But I see that in you, Mr. Frank. I see that in you. So why don't you take us through? So like let's say like you get a new client. I guess what's like the evaluation process look like, and then from there, how do you sort of mold what their program will look like?
So I'll typically start off everything. I really goal is to start off with creating quality movement. So it'll all start with an assessment, which is really just a starts with a basic movement screen. Then we'll get into a workout. And what I'm really looking for is, can the athlete move? Do they know how to move? Can they squat? Can they hinge at the hips? Can they lunge? Can they do a push up? Are they able to pull up with their body weight? We'll usually have a crawl in there. And then can they do it with some sort of external load? So we'll add a little bit of weight and see how things look. And then
Mhm.
I'll be taking notes the entire time with like, so do things change once they add weight with their basic squat or a lunge? On their push-ups, is their head dumping forward? How does their neck look? How do their scaps look? Where's their hand positioning? Same thing with the pull-ups. Are things moving the right way? And then that first day is just kind of like an hour, quick movements, quick workout, couple sets of everything, full body, just to get an idea of where the athlete's at. And then from there, I'll write their program to exploit and target those things. So with just regressions, progressions, for what the athlete individually needs.
Mhm.
Um, and then once we kind of get going, then we'll start to progress into the heavier weights, into more power work. We'll get into use with some VBT sensors. So we'll start getting the intent aspect out of it and really get the explosive work going with that. But it all starts with developing the athlete first.
Mhm.
And I think that's one big area. I work with a lot of high school kids. One big area that a lot of high school kids don't see. And I think a lot of it's like social media. They see all these incredible things on social media in the weight room, and they're like, oh, I want to do that.
Right.
But they don't realize that it takes years mastering the technique, thousands and thousands of reps to really hammer down on that technique and have the stability to maintain the technique when you get to those heavy weights.
Mhm.
Um, it's funny, like kids come in and ask you all the time, oh, can I max today?
Right.
But like even kids will week 2, week 3 after just starting, never been in the weight room before, when
Mhm.
in reality they don't really have any business maxing for years.
Right. That's I feel like that's most people. Most people are just like, I want to test my one rep max set. And you're like, why? You're like,
Right.
there's no reason for you to test your one rep max right now.
That's
But
I'll ask that, and I think with the high school kids, a lot of it's educating them just because they don't
yeah.
know. So that like they want to do that because they don't know the right way to do it. So a lot of times I'll just ask the kid why.
Hmm.
Like if they ask something like that, if you can give me a good reason, then sure. But
Yeah.
reason's better not to, then we're not gonna.
Right. I like that because I don't know about you. I used to do that all the time. I used to just like go in the gym and be like, all right, I'm gonna try to bench as much as I can
Uh-huh.
today. Not a good strategy. But so basically, so I guess for breaking down an athlete, kind of like you said, it's like the most important thing is you need to see how the person moves first, right?
Right.
You need to break down their movement patterns, see where their weaknesses are, see where their strengths are, kind of see how maybe some areas might compensate, right?
Mhm.
So I guess when it comes to training athlete, like, because I hear this all the time with baseball, and I'm a huge Mets fan, and my Mets are always like injured. But yeah, so what do you think about, the argument, like the classic argument where people are like, oh, like, baseball players get so much more injured now because there's a lot more weightlifting and programs, and compared to like years ago when like guys are like not working out at all and just like, probably not in like a great health shape, but like maybe they didn't break down as much.
I think so. The injury, there's definitely more injuries. There's no arguing that. More arm injuries. No, like that's the big one that people talk about.
Mhm.
But also the game's a bit different now. People are throwing much harder now. People are hitting the ball harder. They're putting a lot more stress on the human body. That in the past they just weren't. We didn't have the science behind it to be able to know how to move these way and lift the weight and get this strong to be able to throw this hard in the past. And inherently, that's going to put a lot more stress on the arm. Um, I can't remember the exact number, but I think it's somewhere like in cadaver studies, it's like 64 Newton meters of stress that the UCL can handle. If you just simply throw a baseball, you're going to put more than that on your
Mm.
elbow. So you have to have something there to protect it. So I think it's easy to kind of say, oh, well, all this big weightlifting is maybe what's causing the higher injuries, but it's just we've got better athletes now, and the weightlifting and the movement based training, and all the mobility work and maintaining mobility, especially in season, um, is what's actually going to help to protect things and help lower your risk of hurting yourself,
Mm.
because you are throwing so much harder than people used to, and you're putting more stress on yourself than people used to.
Mhm.
We've got to do more to protect it as well.
Right. Yeah, I think that's so true, and that's interesting. I didn't even think about that. How like you need the muscle to support the actual, tendons and ligaments so that they don't tear. Um, so what would I guess does off season training look different than in season training?
Yeah, definitely. There's so everything, especially with volume, will change. So how much volume we're doing in the weight room, the length of the workouts will change because of that volume too. So we'll spend more time in the weight room in the winter and the off season. Higher rep ranges, higher sets at those heavier weights. In season, we'll do more kind of power work, more speed work. With the VBT sensors we use, that's where we can really get a lot of utility,
Hmm.
because we can set different target ranges for how fast we want the athlete to move. And we could say, all right, don't add any weight unless you're hitting all of your reps at this speed. And it actually connects right to the athlete's phone. It gives them the instant feedback. So it'll beep if they go fast enough. It doesn't beep if they don't. So they know instantly if they're hitting their goal.
Hmm.
And I like to compare it to a radar gun a lot, because with the baseball players, it really kind of clicks with it. Like if you're
Hmm.
throwing out a radar gun and you see a number that you don't like, what are you going to do? You're going to try to throw harder.
Hmm.
And they get that same effect in the weight room. And we can set kind of drop offs actually. So in season, we'll kind of transition where I may not know how many reps an athlete's going to do in a set,
Hmm.
because the sensor is looking for them to drop off by 5 or 10% of their best rep. So I can actually cut their set before they start to fatigue. So we can see those strength and power gains in season, without all the extra fatigue. So they can, because number one priority is going out and playing on the field.
Hmm. So it's called a BBT sensor.
VBT,
VBT.
velocity-based training. Yeah,
Hmm.
the ones that I use they're actually called push sensors. This is one of them right here.
Okay.
Um, but it connects Bluetooth right to your phone. And I'll send the programs right to their phone with it, and then it either will go on the athlete's forearm or on their bicep, or it goes right on the barbell, and it'll track their velocity, their power output, everything. I'll use it to track jumps too, so we can measure vertical jumps with it. I'll usually track jumps like once a week with athletes for the most part. That's really huge, especially in season two. Uh, there's so much other volume, everything else going on. Like we don't know what else is going on in the athlete's life, how
Mhm.
they sleep, how's their nutrition, how are they eating, their
Right.
family life at home, school. Did their school baseball coach just run them into the ground before they came in to lift today?
Right. Yep.
So there's no way to control all that. So that's part of why we'll use the jump testing once a week, because we'll see those numbers go up and down, tracking the progress as they go up. But say we see the numbers shoot down one day, maybe after they had a real rough day at school or something,
Hmm.
and we know we need to adjust the training accordingly to get the benefit we want.
Gotcha. So, and I love all that too, because it's you can't treat every session the same. It has to be for how the athlete is feeling that day. Um, so I guess how does the sensor work? So if I have it on my form or something like that,
Mhm.
like does it track like the barbell speed, like if I'm doing a squat or if I'm doing like a bench press? Is it like
Yeah,
that's
so
that's the
it'll,
velocity?
if it's on your forearm, so it depends on the exercise with your
Sure.
arm. So like say like a dumbbell bench press, it would be on your forearm and it's tracking, it gives it to you in meters per second, how fast you're going.
Mm-hmm.
It'll tell you each rep and then your average, how much you drop off throughout your set. So you can work to maintain your velocities as well. And then you can pan over and look at all your power numbers as well.
And this is for like developing explosiveness in the athlete.
Right. Yeah. So, and we'll use it for our heavier strength work too, because no matter what lift we're doing, we're going to be doing it at some speed.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're training heavier for like going towards that 1 rep max, you're
Mm-hmm.
going to still have a speed on the bar. It's just going to be slower speed.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll set like a target range. So we're actually the athletes, even the high school kids, they'll know like on a heavy strength day, they want to be from 0.2 to zero point 0.5 meters per second. On like a faster power day, they want to be above 0.6.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll come in and they'll start kind of competing with the sensor rather than competing saying, oh, I want to put this much weight on the bar. They're saying, I want to move this fast today.
Mm-hmm.
And they're trying to see how heavy they can get while moving at that speed. Um, because if we think about it too, when they're on the field, they're trying to move fast.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing that, especially in baseball, that's slow.
Right.
Everything's typically between 1 and 20 seconds or so. Like a inside the park home run would be the longest play in baseball, about 20 seconds, which happens
Mm-hmm.
very rare. It's
Right.
usually like 3 to 5 seconds,
Right.
and then repeat throughout the game. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of what we're exploiting with the sensors too, is where we want to move that weight. So say we'll put like the body weight on the bar and how fast and how explosive can we be with that body weight, with your body weight.
Mm-hmm.
Because once you get on the field, you're trying to move your body weight as fast as possible.
Wow. I think that's so cool. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to translate what you do in the gym directly to what they do on the field.
Right.
Gotcha. So that's I think that's really cool. So I guess that wouldn't I'm trying to wonder how that would apply. Like if I were to get one of these sensors, would it be because like I'm sure I mean, I guess it's the same thing because like no matter the exercise, even if you're programming some eccentric like load or anything like that, and you're trying to focus on that, you could still measure. You're just comparing it to the
Right.
next time you do that exercise, right?
Yeah. And so you can, yeah. So and it actually it like creates a whole database and everything. So it saves all the numbers and a profile for the athletes. So we can kind of go back and look and I'll see like, so this athlete creates the most power at this weight
Mm-hmm.
with this exercise. So say we get in season and we're trying to keep the volume real low. We know that's this athlete's most powerful weight, then I'm going to have them do 3 sets of 3 all at that weight because that's where they're going to get the most benefit out of it today.
Mm-hmm. Wow, that's cool. So when did you make like this transition to use more data during your workouts?
I've been using it for about 2 years now, and kind of adapting and adjusting everything. Like at first, I didn't like write programs with it. Like I would
Mm-hmm.
just track like certain things, and then kind of started getting more into it, learning more about it, and
Mm-hmm.
now essentially every athlete is using them when they come in the door. I'll have the sensors actually all hanging on the racks when they come in.
Oh wow.
They'll be assigned, like the sensor will be assigned to a rack. The athlete will come in and they'll set their stuff up right at that rack. They'll use that sensor to work through their workout.
Wow, that's cool. So it's essentially because essentially what you would do in Gen Pop is you don't have these sensors in Gen Pop training, right? So what you do in Gen Pop is you're like you ask them questions during the workouts, like how did that feel, like 1 through 10, like 10 being like you almost shit your pants, one being like that was wicked easy. But this tells you the true like how the body feels rather than just like
Right.
giving them a 1 through 10 answer.
Exactly. Yeah. Think that's a great way to put it in a nutshell. It's like it tells us how the body's feeling that we can't like see. Like the athletes will ask me all the time, like how much weight should I put on the bar? But this will actually tell us like how, based off how they're moving today, how fast they're going. Obviously, the one thing you can't see is their technique.
Mm,
So there are times where like an athlete with like newer athletes where their technique's not quite there and they're moving like way faster than the target.
mm-hmm.
But so the sensor is going to tell them like, oh, you should go up, but based on their technique, obviously we shouldn't. So we always have to be
Right,
watching too.
right.
But once they really kind of hone in on the technique and with the more advanced athletes, it's a really, really great tool.
Mm-hmm. That's dope. So what would you say, I guess, what would be like your top 3 tips for uh any, I guess, any athlete who is either beginning or any athlete who just needs to know, what would be like your top 3 tips for improving performance?
I would say first is get good at moving with your body weight, lunge, squat, hinge. But especially like if you're a field sport athlete, lunging will be huge.
Mm-hmm.
Do some holds, some split squat holds, stuff like that. Um, I would say would be number one. Number two is then start adding some load to it. Make sure that your technique is there, no matter what load is on the bar. I think that's huge where a lot of kids don't realize that, especially starting off where like your body weight squat should look like a squat with 45 pounds, should look like a
Mm,
squat at your 1 rep max. If it doesn't look like that, then take some weight off the bar and perfect it first.
mm,
And then I think number three would just be attention to detail. That's another big one, especially with like mobility work, stuff like that. You can see a huge benefit out of that stuff. Like the warm-ups, a lot of kids, especially in that high school age range, they'll kind of just breeze through the warm-up nonchalantly.
right.
Uh, and then they come asking, well, oh, I'm tight here, where you have 15, 20 minutes of your warm-up where you could really be focusing on that and be
Mm-hmm.
getting so much more out of it. And then you're not going to be tight there.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So I love it. So basically, master your body, master technique, and then warm up, right? Like do a proper
Right.
warm up that's going to serve your goal, right? So if you have let's say it's like your T spine is what's causing you to affect your throw or anything like that, spend time before your workout to loosen it up more and get more
Right.
mobile with it.
Mhm.
That's great. Well, so I guess from a because you have your master's in nutrition as well, right?
Yeah, it was for the most part exercise science, but we did do a few nutrition classes and that. So
Yeah.
we're not like nothing like not dietitian, can't like
Right. Yeah,
give
yeah.
meal plans, stuff like that, but
Right.
general stuff, yeah.
So how does, I guess, do you have like at least some sort of conversation with your athletes in regards to their nutrition?
Yeah, so they all have goals with their nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
We'll typically do daily weigh-ins.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll have, when they get into the gym, they'll check in on the iPad and then they have a weigh-in sheet and they'll set their targets, their goals, everything like that on there. And then we'll set a target date and we'll usually write out like bi-weekly targets. So every day they'll be tracking that. And essentially the conversation, we'll talk about like different foods that they like and how they can kind of get the protein and the calories that they want to get. We have a lot of athletes who probably the opposite of a lot of your clients, but we have a lot who want to go up in weight.
Right.
Where like, especially with a lot of the high school kids, they're trying to get from like that 120 to 140 pound range to
Mm-hmm.
getting up to where the bigger athletes are, like that 160 to 200 pound range,
Mm-hmm.
and trying to do it with putting on muscle without packing on a bunch of extra fat.
Right.
So we'll kind of just, we'll set those targets. We'll set a lot of times between like a 0.5 and a 1.5 pound a week target range. And then we just continuously track it.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll usually find that as long as we're staying consistent, they're staying consistent in the weight room, they're staying consistent tracking it, they're staying kind of holding themselves accountable to it, they usually always go in the direction they want to go with it.
Wow. Actually, so my favorite clients are the ones who want to like bulk up or like be in maintenance, just because I love when your nutrition impacts more of like your athletic goals, and it impacts more of like your aesthetic goals too. So I think that's great. And especially that they're getting the guidance where it's like, listen, you have to adjust your nutrition along with adjusting your workouts. Otherwise, you won't maximize what you're trying to do in here. Right.
Right.
Yeah. That's great. I love that and I love the daily weigh-ins too. Daily weigh-ins are big. I do the same thing with my clients just
Mhm.
because, I'll tell them it's, if you only give me 4 data points a month, then that's going to look like such a dramatic line chart, right? Whereas
Right.
if you give me 30 separate data points, then now we have a much better idea of where you're trending, right?
Right. And they start to learn that it fluctuates on a day-to-day basis.
Yep.
And
Yep.
we really care about the overall trend. And
Yes.
I think it helps with their relationship with the foods. And I absolutely, I love all your posts. Like
My guy.
being unhealthy and still losing weight. It's incredible.
Yeah, thank you, dude. And I love that you're teaching these high school athletes so early on, because I don't know about you, but I could have used that lesson when I was going through high
Right.
school and all of
Yeah.
that. So I absolutely love that, because you need to, like you said, like step one for any athlete is like basically master the basics,
Mhm.
right? You need to master the basics before you put any sort of load on your body. And you could relate the same thing to their nutrition. You need to master the basics of nutrition before you start getting to the nitty gritty details of everything else, right? I want you to consistently hit your calories. I want you to have a good relationship with food. I want you to understand what the scale is doing. And I want you to, and then we can talk about nutrient timing. And then we can talk about all these other things that will really directly, impact your performance. But I like that you sort of break everything down from the get go, and it just ties along with everything that you've been saying.
Right. And I think like you said, like you have to master the basics first. Like after we will, like at times with athletes, once they start to hone in on what they want, they start hitting their goals,
Mm-hmm.
they start to show they're consistent with it. Then we'll start talking more about like tracking calories to see what you're really getting to.
Mm-hmm.
They say they want to be as lean as possible as they gain that weight.
Mm-hmm.
So we know kind of where their macros are at, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they can start to be aware of that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Another tool that some of our athletes use. Have you heard of Whoop?
I have heard of Whoop. Yep.
I actually just got one a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, there he
Um,
goes.
but
Sponsored
I
by Whoop.
love it so far. But one of the big reasons why I got one is because actually the push sensors we use,
Mm-hmm.
they just Whoop and push just merged.
Oh wow.
Like yeah, I guess they are together now, and
Mm-hmm.
so they're, I believe, working on like the next type of model is going to be some sort of thing that does what both of them do,
Mm-hmm.
where you track your sleep, recovery, everything, and then also track your velocity, power output, everything in the weight room.
Wow. I might have to
That
get on the
yeah,
Whoop train.
that'll be a game changer once that something like that is available.
Seriously. So for those who don't know, Whoop is it's like the fitness tech, right? Where it can track everything from resting heart rate to sleep quality, right? What else does it track?
It tracks your daily strains, so it essentially like how much you're stressing yourself throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
It'll recommend like sleep times for if you want to just get by, if you want to perform, you want to peak
Mm-hmm.
tomorrow. Tell you when you should go to bed based on when you want to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably one of the biggest things I've gotten out of it, is it's helped my sleep tremendously. It's tracking calories all day long.
Mm-hmm.
You actually don't even have to take it off to charge it. You charge the charger and then you slide the charger on top of here. So it's like you could wear it 24/7.
Wow. So
It's waterproof, but I don't shower. I don't shower.
he's like, nope,
Yeah.
he doesn't shower.
No, I take it off when I shower.
I can't miss 1 second of this dad. I mean, smelly Frank. But so that's and I guess sleep is something super important. So how would do you talk about sleep quality with your athletes too?
Yeah, so I actually every day when the athletes come in before they start their warm up, they'll typically do I'll have a readiness questionnaire, and it's like right in their phone, like with their program. But I'll just like ask them, how did you sleep? How did you eat over the last 24 hours? How
Mm-hmm.
is your nutrition quality? Stuff like that. How do you feel? Are you ready to train today? And that's really just for them to start being aware of it. And so if they notice their sleep quality isn't very good before they come into train, to try to get them being aware and starting to improve it.
Mm-hmm.
And I do have a handful of athletes who do have the Whoop,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like same thing. It's been like a game changer with them
Mm-hmm.
because they know exactly what their sleep quality is.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually been helpful for me too, because now that I have one, you can do these like, it's like communities within it.
Mm-hmm.
So we can share our data within each other, and you can actually compete, kind of like the Apple Watch competitions.
Yep.
Um, but so I'll actually also, like when I see one of these athletes who I know has one of the Whoops, I see they're coming in that day,
Mm-hmm.
I'll go on the Whoop app and I'll check how was their sleep last night,
Mm.
and I can adjust their training accordingly.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. So basically you just have all this data that you're accumulating for these
Mhm.
athletes to determine, okay, like this is everything we need on you to see how we can get you better like today, right? And
Right.
treating it.
Yeah, because I think in a lot of it, the goal shouldn't be like how hard can we make the workout, how sore can we be tomorrow. It's
Mm-hmm.
how much can we get out of this workout to be better for tomorrow.
Right.
So I think that's where really just getting the data, it's not just like collecting the data, but we have to make sure we use the data.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, because if we're just collecting the data and just looking at it, then and not changing anything because of it, then it's going to be no different.
Right. It's how you apply it.
Mhm.
Otherwise, it doesn't mean shit.
Right.
That's awesome. Well, I know you gotta run soon because you gotta go train clients. But my question for you, it doesn't really have anything to do maybe with what we've been talking about, but um, I don't even think I told you the name of this podcast. The name of this podcast is called These Little Moments Podcast, and the reason I sort of came up with this name is because I had a a moment in my life where I was talking in front of this seminar, and it was like the first time I talked about like having mental health issues from anxiety, depression, all these things. And I was saying during the my little speech, I was like, I understand what fitness is. I've been doing it for a long time. I get it, right? But it's more of these little moments of the interactions with you guys, interactions with what comes from it, right? And moments of life, that is really what I do all this for. So my question for you is can you think of whether it's one moment or a few little moments that have ultimately gotten to you where you are today?
One moment or a few moments. Um, let's see. That's a tough one.
I know I wanted to drop this one on you.
Oh man. Um, I would say probably, I would say like it's, I guess it would be like kind of bigger than just like a few moments, but
Hmm.
I would say like both of my parents, my father and my mother, they were huge, like growing up as a kid, like just the way they kind of raised me. And like I can like vividly remember like my dad telling me like, oh, you can do anything you set your mind to. Like stuff like that. When I was a kid, and kind of thinking back to that when things got tough. Like when I got cut from the baseball team, and like I want to play baseball, so I had to figure out a way to get to work and get there. Um, I think kind of stuff like that were the biggest moments. And kind of just thinking back to those things when things were the toughest, I would say.
I love that. Let's go. Good job, Frankie. Good job. That's everything. Thank you for sharing that, man. And yeah, I guess to summarize everything up too, like even if you're not a baseball performing athlete, everybody can train like an athlete, right? Like there's no reason you can't take care of your body this way and try to
Right. Yeah.
maximize what
I
you do
think,
every day.
yeah, I think no matter how you're training, I think moving well is gonna help you to feel better, and kind of putting a focus into the mobility side of things is always going to help.
Hmm.
And it's going to benefit Gen Pop athletes, older populations, anybody.
Hmm. Let's go. Love that. So I'd love to have you back on the podcast too, and we can go over like more specific things, maybe about mobility training or any type of specifics like that.
Yeah,
But
that's good. Hmm.
that'd be great. Well, thank you, dude. I want to make sure I get you out of here in time, but I appreciate you coming on. Where can people find you? Name all your socials, your websites, whatever you got.
Everything is Baseball Strength Tank on social media, Instagram, TikTok, um, Facebook. The website's baseballstrengthtank.com. The only thing couldn't fit enough characters on Twitter, so it's BSB Strength Tank. But other than that, it's all Baseball Strength Tank.
Awesome. And I'll have you text me all that too, so I can put it in the links below so that people can go to it and access it. And then where's your actual location, your brick and mortar place?
I'm located right in Latham, New York, right out not far from Albany, right outside Albany.
Awesome. Sweet. So make sure you go check out Frank. He's a genius. Learned a lot from him. But yeah, man, I appreciate you. Thank you. We'll hang on just for a little bit after I stop this. But appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for having me. This has been awesome.
My pleasure. Hey, thank you for texting me the other day and reaching out. I appreciate it. All right. So we'll see you guys soon. And yeah, take care.